Welcome to Board Gems. In this video I'm going to be comparing two editions of the classic Reiner Knizia game Through the Desert. There have been many editions over the years. The original Kosmos German edition from 1998, Fantasy Flight Games released English editions in 2000, 2005, 2009, and 2017, and most recently Allplay released their version in 2024. I'll be comparing the 2024 edition on the right with the 2005 edition on the left. There were a lot of printings of this game, and in my personal experience, this 2005 edition is the most common one you might find on the used market, at least in my experience. This Fantasy Flight edition is actually multilingual in 8 languages, shows a gameplay state, more or less, with some components in the foreground, and a lot of call-outs to all the publishers that are pairing up with Fantasy Flight for this edition. The Allplay edition doesn't really show the game overall, it shows more of a flow. You'll do this, and then you do that, and then you do this, and maybe you'll score points, and you'll be clever and win. Boxes are not too dissimilar in size. Through the Desert is Allplay's standard box size, and this was Fantasy Flight's standard size for their silver line kind of budget games at the time. This sort of line that Fantasy Flight put out has changed over the years, and Through the Desert has had releases in most of them. You'll notice the Allplay edition does not close properly. There's a bit of lid lift. Even with a simple cardboard insert, the old Fantasy Flight edition does have barely enough room for the components, and of course if it was too tight for you, like if you wanted to add an expansion, which, there wasn't an expansion for the FFG version, but if there was, and you wanted to fit it in, of course you could just remove the insert. The Allplay edition is not much smaller than the Fantasy Flight edition, a little bit thinner, and components don't really fit in the box, not without lid lift. By the way, there's a bag in that box, that's from the expansion. That's the only thing from the expansion that I put in the box. Everything else I had to leave out because otherwise the lid lift was too much. I really don't like lid lift. The Fantasy Flight rulebook is in 8 languages. It's pretty clear. It could be clearer in some things. Like there are very slight rules exceptions which are mentioned, but I feel like could be stressed a little bit more. Typical for Allplay, a single folded sheet. I want to point out a couple of things though. First, it is nice that they define a rider plus camel equals leader. It does make it a little clumsy inside because so many of the rules refer to camels/leaders. Anyway, Allplay rulebook, standard single folded sheet, very visual. Some things are only explained with examples, but it's extremely clear. I like on the back that they have a tips and reminders section, which highlights some of the rules that are easy to miss. The Allplay board is much larger than the Fantasy Flight board, which is nice. It's nice for any game that goes up to 5 players or more to have a nice big board. I'm fine with small boards for a 4-player game, but if a game goes up to 5, it should have a bigger board. The play areas are identical except for a mistake in the Allplay board. One watering hole is not printed on the board. This is not a big deal to me. I put a blue sticker on it. At the start of the game this is covered by a tile anyway, but Allplay did provide the graphic for a watering hole, and you can print that out and glue it on the board, and it looks not too bad. I feel like the difference is more noticeable in this photo than it is in person. Here's another view of the boards and the difference in board size. The Allplay board is really nice and big, but is awkward to unfold. And actually this video that I'm taking here is me after having unfolded it a few times, so I'm a little bit better at it now, but you should see me if I haven't unfolded it in a while. I'm like, what the heck? How am I doing this? This is so confusing. You probably saw a glimpse of it just now, but the Allplay edition has a back of a board, a nighttime board. There's an extra rule where you get a 5-point bonus whenever your caravan crosses a river for the first time. Haven't played this yet. Fine for variety, but not necessary, certainly. Those sort of towns or markets that are on the edge of the board, that's used in an expansion. They're printed on the board in the base game, but you don't use them unless you also have the expansion. Here's a sample of some of the tokens. Fantasy Flight tokens are round and they're small inside the hex. The numbers are clear and the strengths are clear based on how strong the blue is. You can see the effect is more subtle in the Allplay edition. The number is smaller, it stands out less, and the difference is the building size. And I believe the original Kosmos, I think pretty much all of the versions up to and excluding the Allplay edition, showed the player colors as represented by riders on neutral gray plastic camels. And instead in the Allplay edition, they are marked by cardboard tokens. There is a risk, at least there has always been in printing board games, that if you have plastic as one color, if you have wood as a color, if you have cardboard as a color, and you're trying to make them the same color across different types of components, that can cause problems, but these colors match up nicely. The new camels are a little bit longer and I guess narrower. More importantly, they're hollow. The old Fantasy Flight, and I think all the other previous editions, had solid plastic, a little bit heavier, a little bit better to play outdoors. Allplay edition's camels are hollow, very light. And here's the same gameplay setup on both editions. New in this photo are the oasis markers, the trees. They're quite nice in the Allplay edition on the left, although mine came very warped in the box. Again, I guess because they were, crammed into this really tiny box when the plastic hadn't quite settled yet, I don't know. But you can see the board is much larger in the Allplay edition, the hexes are much larger, but the camels aren't much larger. So the caravan ends up being more spread out. There's more space between the camels in a caravan compared to the old edition. Thank you for watching. Please note that older games like Through the Desert don't stop being good because newer games come out. That's what they say anyway. And by they, I mean me. Take care.